Wow, there is a huge crowd out there. Thank you so much. All right. Give a round of applause to all of those who came here. You know, war is sucking this country inside out. We are against war at home. We are against war abroad. Are you with me?
We don't want your fucking war. We don't want your fucking war. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want your fucking war. We don't want your fucking war.
How long has Iran been threatened by us? How long dominated? 25 years under the Shah because we wanted their oil. Look at what we've done to Iraq. I don't know if any people ever suffered so long in so many ways since the day we invaded Iraq. Look at what we're doing in Afghanistan, Libya right now. We've got one thing we have to do. Did you see that ridiculous circus in the Congress talking about how we're going to close down the government? We'll close down the hospitals, let people die. What we have to do if we're going to turn this around is cut our military budget. That's the secret. Let me tell you, until we cut it by 90%, we won't be safe and the rest of the world will be killed. We've got subs at sea right now that can obliterate the planet. Do we realize that? The Triton II Pacific Fleet alone can hit 500 cities with a million population or more like that. Bombs are unimaginable. We build them, they're at sea, they're ready to fire. We've got to stop that. We've got to stop it by stopping spending for military causes. Peace.
Join us, Broadway. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Join us.
Stop shopping, start marching in Iraq. The bombs are dropping. Stop shopping, start marching in Iraq. The bombs are dropping.
You know, as many of you know, President Obama announced his bid for re-election last week. And you remember his slogan when he campaigned in 2008, right? This change we can believe in. We also know the change he's brought. In Afghanistan, thousands of more troops, thousands of more dead and suffering civilians, and billions of more dollars in a war even U.S. officials say they no longer understand. In Pakistan and Yemen, a shadow war being waged by the CIA and secret military forces using drones and remote control killing. At Guantanamo, a broken promise to close the prison and a new executive order that reaffirms the indefinite detention of the men detained there as official U.S. policy. In the U.S., the targeting of Muslims for prosecution based on terrorist plots fabricated by government informants or for political activism recast as support for terrorism under special conditions that cut off their communication with the outside world or subject them to solitary confinement. Globally, the administration's continued refrain of a state of war against al-Qaeda and undefined associated forces that would permit the capture, the detention, and even the killing of anyone deemed an enemy anywhere. And the list goes on. There are thousands of us here and around the country and around the world who have had enough. As a former community organizer, and if nothing else, a politician up for re-election, President Obama should know that our voices matter. Let's make our voices louder and demand to be heard. Thank you.
How do we fix that deficit? End the war, tax the rich. How do we fix that deficit? End the war, tax the rich. 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 How do we fix the deficit?
Tax the war, tax the rich.
How do we fix the deficit?
End the war, tax the rich.
How do we fix the deficit?
End the war, tax the rich.
How do we fix the deficit?
End the war, tax the rich.
How do we fix the deficit?
End the war, tax the rich.
How do we fix the deficit? End the war, tax the rich.
We say no to war. We say no to war. We say no to war. Brothers and sisters, if they want to declare war on poverty, declare war on racism, declare war on capitalism, declare war on imperialism. If they want to stop and frisk people like they do in our neighborhoods, stop and frisk Wall Street. stop and frisk those crooks on Wall Street to see if they got toxic derivatives in their taché cases, to see if they got Ponzi schemes in their taché cases, to see if they got predatory loans in their taché cases. The people of the world are rising up. They're lucky we staying behind the barricades today. There's going to be a time where we're not going to have any barricades. There's going to be a time where they're going to be from 1 to 4. There's going to be a time where we're not going to follow no police or anybody else. There's going to be a time when the people rise up and say this land belongs to the Native Americans. You robbed it from them, and now we're going to make sure that peace comes to this earth. We're going to make sure that you know that Barack Obama, you're wrong. U.S. out of Libya. We don't want you spending our money on bombs. You can give us a black president all you want. We are saying he's wrong. We're going to fight, and guess what? The masses, we're going to win. History's on our side.
Pay your taxes, Citibank! Pay your taxes, Citibank! Pay your taxes, Citibank! Pay your taxes, Citibank! Pay your taxes, Citibank!
The U.S. and the West are now using the repression in Libya as an excuse to make intervention in the whole region possible again. Because at the end of the day, what the U.S. cares about is Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, and its oil and geostrategic interests. Our duty in the States is to be able to support the movements across the region. And I can end by saying that years ago a song came out that was called Walk Like an Egyptian. Today we ought to learn from Egypt and walk like the Egyptians, strike like the Egyptians, protest like the Egyptians, bring Tahrir to the United States. Thank you.
This one's a political one. It's called Connoisseur of Control. 1. If democracy requires an educated public and a free press, then ignorance equals control. 2. If all men were created equal, which they were, if a man in the Bronx labors in a factory while another man plays golf in the Bahamas, they are equal. And a man who sells weed on a graffitied corner while another sells stocks for Slavery Incorporated on Wall Street, they live under the same laws and will be treated accordingly. As beautiful as a man in drag or a woman smoking a cigar, they get the same respect. 3. Life needs death. You need one to control the other. What would fear be without fear of death? life would be free, and freedom is dangerous to power. Just like a billion fire ants overtaking a human alone in the woods, but the circle is complete. There can be no death without someone to murder. 4. A. Classes inside closets, books coated in decades of dust. B. Everything you see on TV is true. The story of the day is the only story. C. Divine word is the highest law. The shepherd leads, the sheep follow, all the way to the butcher shop and onto the shepherd's plate. A, B, and C are necessary for complete ignorance, while the robber baron seated at the apex holding all knowledge and power. 5. The one who is awake can see shadows and dragons. So catch us on YouTube. I'm Katharine.
If you aren't caught up in the U.S. involvement in wars overseas, you can catch up by watching a few documentaries. Here are some of our producers' recommendations to get you up to date on the U.S. involvement in war. Fahrenheit 9/11, a Michael Moore documentary which describes Bush's handling of 9/11 and everything that led up to the start of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. I find this movie to be entertaining while being enlightening. Control Room is a look inside the world of journalists from Al Jazeera at the start of the Iraq War and the Arab perspective on the wars. Frontline, The Dark Side, PBS documentary from 2006 that describes Dick Cheney's role in the Iraq War. No End in Sight from 2007 tells the story of how the war and occupation was run under Bush using interviews of key players. It's Oscar nominated. War Made Easy historically chronicles how media works in lockstep with the U.S. government to convince the public to support war, even though the truth would have the public choosing a different option. The Good War and Those Who Refuse to Fight It. Conscientious objectors during World War II, the hardest time socially in U.S. history to refuse to fight or kill based on your values of peaceful existence. These people really suffered for their beliefs and gave to societies in thankless ways, such as caring for the least among us, even when everybody else had forsaken them. Watching a good documentary is a great way to learn about a subject fast when you don't have time to read a book in your hectic New York City schedule. It's up to you to educate yourself.